Son las 10, sí. Y muy buenos días a todos. Espero que ustedes estén bien. I hope you guys are all well. ¿Sí?
Sí,
Fantástico. Ok, vale. Hoy, y tenemos como, sí, una clase más. We have one more class, just so that people know for their planning. We have one more class for winter session. That is next week, the 13th. See. And then we have a hiatus due to the holiday season and New Year's and all of that. Obviously registration with Scottsdale still open, all that good stuff. ¿Qué más? Oh, sí. Hamburguesas. Yeah, the Five Guys meetup is tomorrow. So noon, if you can make it, and if you can't, we'll catch you next time. Yeah, no, no hay problema, no problem. We'll catch you next time if you can't make it tomorrow noon at Five Guys. Okay. Hoy vamos a practicar con el subjuntivo en presente un poquito. We already have a question on one of those oddball verbs to use for that. So the one thing that you should dig up if you printed it out or if you wrote it down somewhere or if you saved it on your computer, you got to pull up the file, are your 5 little examples of impersonal phrases. And we'll review what we do with that before we go off into that practice. Antes de empezar, someone sent me a lovely article, really out of New York Times. And it was not in time for me to pull it up for your class last week. So this is a little bit after the holiday fact, but it was so well done and such a lovely sentiment that I thought this would be a good thing to share. So we're going to do a little warm up with a little reading. This article is condensed, and I mean, I probably cut it by about 70%, just so it would be easy to read. El artículo que vamos a ver ahorita es un artículo de New York Times y tiene un gran sentimiento, un sentimiento muy precioso que una manera de pensar en el Día de Acción de Gracias. This is really how all of us should think of Thanksgiving. Y por eso, therefore, one little preview here. This little funny word, sor. En el título del artículo dice, nunca daba gracias por los alimentos. I never used to say thanks for food, meaning saying grace, saying some kind of a meal-associated prayer. I never used to give thanks for food. Nunca daba gracias por los alimentos. Sor Agnes me enseñó a hacerlo. Sor is a word that means sister, but not sister like the like your sibling. It's the religious title for Catholic nuns, which are a religious order, people who devote their lives to the religious life. So they often, you will not hear hermana associated with that, to say sister as a title of address. That's what sor is. It's a way of addressing somebody who belongs to a women's religious order. Okay.
Carolyn, can you make that any larger?
Sí puedo. Lo puedo hacer fácilmente. Mejor, better?
Mucho.
Mucho mejor, excelente. Ok, y dice aquí, hay un subtítulo, una lección de acción de gracias sobre la bendición de la mesa y quienes nos alimentan. A lesson on Thanksgiving about blessing the table and who feeds us. Bendecir is to bless, okay, to ask for blessing, right? La bendición. Okay. ¿Alguien quiere leer? Es una manera de ejercicio de calentar. This is a warm-up kind of thing. Anybody wants to volunteer to read that little sentence for us? Como práctica de pronunciación.
I'll try, although I'm not sure I can translate it all.
Okay. Vale, Mark.
De chica, mi familia en la ciudad de Nueva York no daba gracias antes de comer. Más bien, la cena a veces comenzaba con un chiste recurrente.
Recurrente. As a girl, my family in New York City didn't used to give thanks before eating. Rather, dinner at times would begin with a running joke. Recurrente, a running joke. Something happens over and over. Okay. A ver. Adelante. Adelante aquí. Oh, sí, no es tanto. It's not so much because we have some names thrown here que son en inglés, ¿sí? Un voluntario para leer. Bien. Ok, sí. Bien.
Necesita mute.
Sí.
Lo siento.
Mi madre se quedaba.
Se quedaba insularmente seria y callada. Vamos a decir gracias, decía en un voz bajo, y mi hermano y yo captamos a donde iba. Antes de fórmula en inglés, let us say Grace, él decía Grace Kelly, y yo agregaba Grace Jones o Grace Slick según el tipo de música que me gustaría en ese momento.
Que me gustara en ese momento. Sí, ok. Es como un chiste, ¿no? My mom would be there, unusually serious and quiet. Let us give thanks, she would say. En voz baja is a good chunk to know. En voz baja, it sounds like in a low voice like that, but no, it means that you're saying something very, very softly. En voz baja means you're saying something not loud, but softly. She would say in a soft voice. And my brother and I, we would get where this was going. Like the formula in English, let us say Grace, she would say, or he would say, meaning her brother, Grace Kelly, and I would add Grace Jones or Grace Slick, according to the type of music that I was liking at that moment. Okay, bien. Gracie Allen terminaba mamá. Gracie Allen, yeah, George Burns' wife. Amén. Y luego atragar. Y luego atragar. And then atragar. Tragar means to swallow. So that may sound odd to you as a phrase. So what happens? You say grace, and then you say, well, let's get at it, right? And that atragar means let's get it. It's like saying everybody eat. Atragar. Tragar means to swallow. Sometimes people use it in reference to like downing a drink, like downing a shot, all in one thing. Yeah. Atragar is like saying, and well, okay, everybody eat. Atragar. Okay. Otro voluntario aquí. Así que, okay, Diana. Oh, and you're on mute. Sadly, you are on mute. There we go. Aquí.
Así que tenía poco idea de todo el asunto de benedicciones aperitivas hasta que conocí a Sir Agnes Rooney.
Sí, well, así que tenía poca idea, so that I had little idea of this whole business of blessings or meal prayers. Yeah. I had a very little idea of all this business. El asunto means the topic of blessings. Bendiciones aperitivas. Aperitif means something that's like a little hors d'oeuvre, like a little, precursor to your meal. So that's what that bendiciones aperitivas means. It's a blessing before the meal. I had little idea of what all that meant until I met, conocí, I met, and that means the one-time thing, not I knew, but I met, because it's pretérito, it means met. I met Sister Agnes Rooney. Okay. Es una frase muy larga. I'm going to take this one because es una frase muy larga. Hace muchos años visité la iglesia de Santa Cecilia en East Harlem por primera vez. Many years ago, I visited the Church of Saint Cecilia in East Harlem for the first time para hablarle a los miembros de la comunidad sobre los vales de comida y otros beneficios que podrían ayudar a llevar alimentos a su mesa. And now here's the phrase that tells why she visited this church: to talk to the members of the community about the value of food and other benefits that could help bring food to their table. I got a little feedback loop coming in here. Aquí. Okay, un voluntario aquí.
I can do that.
Bien.
Tenía 20 años.
Veintitantos.
Y acaba de comenzar a trabajar como organizadora en una entidad comunitaria contra el hambre.
Sí, y Nora, en paréntesis, take that one too. Eso sí.
Oh, aquí el artículo habló de su visita y una descripción de Sor Agnes.
Sí, bien. Okay, so here's where I cut out a great big thing because it just describes physically. I mean, it's nice for the readers, but for our purposes, we don't need it. Okay. Tenía veintitantos años. Wow.
Is that in your 20s, maybe?
Some 20.
Eso sí, muy
20
bien.
something.
Tanto means so much. Yeah. Tanto means so much. I was 20 something. Es como decir en inglés, I was in my 20s. I was a 20 something. Así. Bien. I was 20 something years old. And I was just starting to work as an organizer in a entidad comunitaria. Community organization really is a way of saying that. It's a fancier way of saying an organización. Community organization that worked against hunger, contra el hambre. Okay. And then you get a little description of Sor Agnes, which makes it 5 pages long, which is too much. Es demasiado. Okay. Okay, bueno, Kathleen, ¿quieres leer aquí? Lady.
Okay. Le di las gracias por invitarme y me dirigí a la puerta. ¿Tienes que regresar ya mismo a la oficina? Preguntó. Déjame invitarte a comer primero.
Bien, sí, okay. Perdón. I thanked her for inviting me. Dirigirme is to direct oneself. And it means you turn yourself to go in a certain direction. Es como decir, me dirigí, es como decir en inglés, I headed for. I headed off for. Es me dirigí. Me dirigí a la puerta. I headed off for the door. Oh, do you have to go back right now? Ya mismo. Another way of saying right now instead of ahora or ahorita. Do you need to get back right now to that office? Let me invite you to eat first. Okay, bueno. ¿Quién quiere leer aquí? ¿Quién quiere leer? Bueno, Pat.
Dimos la vuelta a la esquina a una cafetería pequeña y muy ocupado. Cuando el mesero trajo los platos, la comida olía delicioso y me dispuse a entrarle de inmediato.
Eso sí. Okay. Dar la vuelta is to turn. See? Or take a spin, like if you're in a car. Pero dimos la vuelta. We turned the corner a la izquierda. We turned the corner to a small and very busy cafeteria. When the waiter brought the plates, the food, olía.
Smelled.
Smelled.
Smelled
Yeah. Y es descripción. It's a description. Así que usamos oler en forma de imperfecto. The food smelled delicious. And I was disposed to dig right in. Entrarle. See, I was disposed to diving right in. I wanted to dive right into that food, meaning she was going to start eating. Boom, boom, boom. It smelled so great. Yeah. Don't wait, just dive in. Okay. Bien. Okay. ¿Quién quiere leer? Who would like to read this? ¿Alguien? O yo puedo leer aquí. Bien. Entonces, me di cuenta de que Sor Agnes no había siquiera levantado su tenedor.
Mhm.
Then I realized that Sister Agnes had not even lifted her fork. No había siquiera, she had not even that. Siquiera, no with siquiera, which sometimes is ni in siquiera. It's not even. Had not even lifted her fork. Y me dio vergüenza, and I was really embarrassed. I felt embarrassed. Por supuesto que íbamos a bendecir los alimentos antes de comer. Of course, we were going to say a blessing on the food before eating. We were going to say grace. Sin Grace Slick, without Grace Slick. En mi defensa, debo decir que jamás había comido con una monja. In my defense, I ought to say that I had never eaten with a nun. Monja is nun, okay? Sor is just the title you use to address the nun, okay? Monja es nun. She belongs to a religious, Catholic religious order. Aquí, Sor Inés vio mi vergüenza y me calmó. Sister Agnes saw my embarrassment, literally my shame, but it means I'm mortified, yeah? And she calmed me down. Rosie dijo, vamos a dar gracias. Luego dijo una bendición que como nunca había escuchado. Later, she said a blessing as I had never heard it. Aquí lo precioso. Here, the precious part of thing. Here is the real heart of the thing. ¿Alguien quiere leer? Somebody want to read that? Oh, no. Sí? Okay, sí. Oh, and you're on mute. Entiendo, I understand. Oh, you're still on mute. Sadly, desgraciadamente. Your tablet does not want to cooperate here.
Ahora.
Mucho mejor. Te oigo. I hear you now. Ahora te oigo.
Primero, por supuesto, le agradeció al Señor. Luego les agradeció a los agricultores que plantaron la semilla y los campesinos que cosecharon la comida.
Eso sí. And when you see Señor in that context capitalized, it means the Lord. Okay.
Mm.
It's a way of talking about God, the Lord. First, of course, she thanked the Lord. Later, she thanked the farmers who planted the seed and the farmers, the field workers. Campesinos, campo es field, like out in the country. So campesinos are people who work in the fields, and the field workers who harvested the meal. Cosechar es to harvest. La cosecha es the harvest, como sustantivo, as a noun, pero que cosecharon la comida, who harvested the food. Bueno, ahorita, momentito. Bueno, aquí. Trish, ¿quieres leer un poquito aquí?
Okay. Luego a los empacadores que la prepararon para su traslado. Luego a los camioneros que entregaron los alimentos, al cocinero que la convirtió en nuestro festín y al mesero que la había puesto sobre la mesa.
Bien, sí. Luego a los empacadores. Sí, empacadores. D-O-R, tells you a person who does a type of work. Empacar is to pack. So later for the packers who prepared it, and we've got the la referring back to comida. La is the comida, standing in for la comida. The workers who packed it and prepared it for its move, traslado, its move, meaning getting the food out of the field, right? Later, camioneros, another job-related word. Instead of door, ero is somebody who does that. So camiones, truck.
Drivers, truck drivers.
Truckers, the truck drivers. Later to the truck drivers who delivered, entregaron, entregar es to deliver, who delivered the foods to the cook or chef, who turned it into our feast. Convirtió, convertir es to convert, who turned it, pero diríamos en inglés, turn it into, see, who turned it into our feast, and the waiter who had placed it on the table. And you see all those it words, the la, all those direct objects referring back to la comida, see? Fui conminada al silencio, a la reflexión, y luego comimos. Wow, I was struck dumb. I said nothing because I was just reflecting on all of this, and later we ate. So there is really the beautiful paragraph of what all of us should be thinking about through the whole holiday season, not even just Thanksgiving, but all of that, all the people who work for our food, ¿sí? Dar gracias me había parecido una abstracción. Giving thanks had seemed to me like an abstraction. O en la mesa de mi familia, una rutina cómica, or in my family, a comic routine. Ahora tenía significado. Now it really had meaning. ¿Sí? Bueno, aquí un cuánto. Es una frase larga. It's a long sentence. Anybody want to take a stab at that? ¿Sí o no? Diana, sí.
Mucho antes de escuchar la frase de la granja a la mesa, Sor Agnes me hizo pensar en todo lo que se requiera para llevar los alimentos del lugar donde se cultivaban al lugar donde yo me sentaba a comerlos, sobre las muchas manos que habían trabajando a servicio de mi comida.
Exacto, sí. Much earlier than hearing the phrase, or a long time before I ever heard the phrase, from the farm to the table. Granja es farm. that is a phrase that sometimes people use, from the farm to the table, meaning something is really fresh, right? So a long time before hearing the phrase from the farm to the table, Sister Agnes made me think about everything that was required to bring foods from the place where they were cultivated or grown to the place where I was sitting down to eat them, about the many hands that had worked in service of my food. So it's, not just the person who cooks it and prepares it. See, aquí, algo más. ¿Alguien más? Anybody else? Un poquito, sí, ¿no? Ok, yo. Podía imaginarme a cada persona vinculada. Vinculada es esto. Vinculada. Sí, linked. Podía imaginarme a cada persona vinculada a esa larga cadena de producción. I was able to imagine each person linked in that long production chain. Y desde entonces he apreciado mucho más todo lo que como y todo lo que cocino. And since that time, I have appreciated much more everything that I eat and everything that I cook. Pensaré en ella en este Día de Acción de Gracias y daré gracias de modo de que ella me enseñó a todos los que hicieron posible mi banquete. I will think about her on Christmas or on Thanksgiving Day, and I will give thanks in the way that she showed me or taught me to everyone who made my banquet possible. I will send that along for you to read again and think about. It's a lovely thought for all this holiday season. Bien. Okay. And a good little drill for you to think about preterite imperfect a little bit, besides the lovely thought. Okay.
Marilyn,
See.
on Thanksgiving, my daughter brought her boyfriend who was born in Colombia. And I had been listening to the previous week's lesson, which I don't think I attended, but I asked him how he said gravy. And it really made him think, because you all had been talking about gravy and how to say it. And he agreed with you the various different ways, but he said generally gravy.
Okay.
And also they don't eat much gravy, he said.
No.
It wasn't a thing.
A lot of the problems with translation for holiday things is because in another culture, they don't use that food. They don't have that food.
Right.
Yeah, and gravy just of itself is not really a thing in most Latin American food, nor in Spain.
He thought that the meat juice, jugo de
Jugo.
carne. Yeah, jugo.
Yeah.
But that was weird.
Yeah. They're poor translations. It's like saying really, and with any of those words, tamales are tamales, right?
Right.
We can't, latkes are latkes. If you got a food that comes from a different culture, a different tradition, it is that. And sometimes that's why some things don't get translated, because, they are whatever they are in the original language. Así es. Okay. Para calentar, as a warm-up for our ideas for using something else, which is grammar related, which is subjuntivo, our little impersonal phrases. We're going to have a cute little video. Es 5 minutos menos. I think it's actually kind of shorter. Okay. This is going to show you just some ways that people would use this before you actually have to use it yourself. Y es algo entretenido. It's just kind of entertaining.
Es increíble que estés aquí. Impersonal expressions or the letter I of our acronym, weirdo,
And the acronym weirdo is used for subjunctive, so that you know, because you will hear weirdo used in a lot of videos as you hear tidbits in the internet. Weirdo is just an acronym so that English speakers can think about the reasons for, not how to make subjunctive, but the reasons for using subjunctive. Impersonal phrases are the I in weirdo, and that stands for impersonal phrases. But the other letters of weirdo stand for other ideas or concepts, which are called triggers. Triggers mean something that will flag, oops, you're going to have to use subjunctive. They are reasons for using subjunctive. Okay.
Remember to check the first video. It's one of the easiest ways to use subjunctive. Why? You only need to use this structure. Es, adjetivo, que, verbo, and subjuntivo.
Yeah, and that's the formula you are going to be using today. Es, adjetivo, que, but that que es importante. La palabra que es muy importante. Y que presenta a una persona que hace algo. Que introduces that there's going to be a human being coming who does something, not talking about anybody in general, but a specific person. So the que flags you to listen for who's doing that. And sometimes, of course, we don't mention the subject because it's buried into the form of that verb.
That's it. Now be careful. You have to use always que after the adjective. Why? Let me show you. Es importante que practiques español todos los días.
It's important that you practice, but we're bringing you into the formula, that we're talking about you as a human being, not you in the general amorphous, faceless you of English, but the actual person, you.
Using que in the middle, without que. Es importante practicar.
Now, that's also perfectly valid, but then it is a faceless thing. Okay. It is a faceless kind of reference with the impersonal in that sense. We don't have the word que, and we don't mention any one person or any specific person. It just is talking about the human race in general, the you in the idea of the general or not specific you of English. It's important to practice for anybody at all.
Español todos los días. Without que, you have to use infinitive.
Without que, you use the infinitive.
After the adjective. Now, let's see at least 6 different adjectives that are the most common ones. 1. Es importante que.
Es importante que tenga mucho cuidado durante el embarazo.
2. Es posible que.
Es posible que no sea nada.
3. Es necesario que.
Es necesario que la vida tenga sus ciclos.
4. Es raro, es extraño que.
Es que es raro que alguien maltrate un producto de lujo.
5. Es bueno que.
Es bueno que camine.
Y 6. Es malo que.
Es malo que comas muchos dulces.
No.
Yeah, it's bad that you eat a lot of candy. So many, you will never find a list that says this is all of them, because lots of different adjectives are used this way.
In the following sketch, try to find all the impersonal expressions.
Here comes the fun
and
part, the
verbs
sketch.
In the subjunctive mood. ¿Estás listo?
Problemas de oficina.
Office problems. And here is a title, like sor is a title to say sister. Licenciado is a title one uses towards a lawyer. Tenemos un título en inglés. Do we have a title? Counselor? Sometimes people will use, yeah. I think judges will sometimes address attorneys as counselor, yeah. Okay. Licenciado.
Hola, licenciado Rodríguez.
¿Qué onda, Lupita? ¿Qué pasó?
Le vengo a recordar que es muy importante que entregues el reporte para antes de las 5 de la tarde.
It's very important that you turn in, you deliver, entregues. You get that report in. you turn in the report, you deliver the report, you get the report in by, and then she named the time of day.
Ay, Lupita, ese reporte. ¿Y si no? ¿Qué?
And if not, okay, so what?
¿Qué va a pasar?
What's going to happen?
Es posible que te corran.
It's possible that they'll run you out, meaning that they'll fire you, they'll sack you, yeah, as the Brits say it. Well, it's possible you'll get sacked, you'll get fired.
Lupita, yo nunca hago mi trabajo y siempre me pagan.
I never do my work and they always pay me. ¡Guau! ¡Qué actitud!
Así que no me molestes.
Así que no me molestes. And there he gives her a command. So don't bug me. So don't annoy me.
Es increíble que sea tan flojo.
It's incredible that you're such a lazy bum. See, that's incredible.
¿Qué? Escuché eso, Lupita.
I heard that,
No soy
Lupita.
flojo.
I am no lazy bones.
Nada.
Mejor
I said nothing.
ve y tráeme un café.
Yeah.
Yo sé eso.
Yeah, better go off, get me a coffee. Yeah, he's shuffling her off. I know about
Sobre
this.
el reporte.
A las
know about
5 de
this
la
report.
tarde.
Rodríguez, ¿dónde está mi informe?
Where's my report?
Jefa, buenos días. Primero.
Let's try to butter her up a little bit. Oh, now he no va al grano. He does not go to the core of it right away. Oh, hello, how are you first off?
¿Cuál informe?
El informe que te pedí con Lupita.
Yeah, the report that I asked Lupita to get from you.
¿Qué va? No sé de qué informe me esté hablando.
I don't know what report you're talking about.
Es necesario que se entregue el informe ahora.
It's necessary that you turn in that report ahora. Okay, right now. And you know, that word ahora, when people say ahora, sometimes it really doesn't mean now, even though it translates as now. Ahora means it may never happen at all. It could happen in 5 hours. It could happen in a few days. Yeah. And when she says ahora, it's like, I mean now.
Jefa, ok.
Us.
Le tengo una buena noticia y una no tan buena.
I've got good news for you and not so good news.
Ajá.
¿Cuál quiere escuchar?
Lo
Which
que
you want to
sea.
hear? Lo que sea, whichever. Lo que sea. And that doesn't use an impersonal phrase, but it does use lo que sea, whichever one.
Ok. Buena noticia.
Good news.
Sí, hice el informe.
I did the
Es
report.
bueno, que digo bueno, es increíble que seas tan cumplido, licenciado
It's good that you really are, you're diligent that you're getting this done.
Rodríguez.
Gracias, jefa. Gracias. Ahora
Por favor, dámelo.
Please give it to
le
me.
tengo la mala noticia.
No me
Bad
hagas
news.
perder mi tiempo.
Don't waste my time.
Ok. Aquí está el informe, pero lo malo es que se lo comió el perro.
Bad news is it's the kid excuse for homework. The dog ate it. Se lo comió.
¿De qué me habla Rodríguez? Aquí
What are you
ni
telling
siquiera
me?
tenemos perro.
We
Estás
don't even have a dog here, she says.
despedido.
Estás despedido. You are fired. Estás despedido. You are fired.
Es imposible que vayan a creerme.
It's impossible that they are going to, there is an impersonal phrase. It's impossible that they're going to believe me.
Hace una hora, Miguel había terminado el reporte, pero...
There's my report.
No, Pedro. Es imposible que me crean.
There's no way they're going to believe me. It's impossible that they'll believe me. creer, to believe, que es imposible que me crean.
¿Por qué te comiste el reporte?
Why'd you eat the report? They're gonna fire me.
La vida continúa. Me llevo mis
Life goes
perros
on.
y mi taza favorita. ¿Sabes también qué es increíble, jefa? Que en nuestra página...
Okay, and there it's self-promotion, so we stop it there. Okay. A ver.
Marilyn, before we continue, repeat again the weirdo word, the words that go with weirdo.
Sí, sí.
Wishes is the first one. I don't remember the others.
Una prevista. I'll give you a little quick rundown on what weirdo stands for. It is merely a device that we use for English speakers to help them remember not how to form subjunctive, but why. The W stands for any verbs that talk about wishes or wants. Okay. And that may be querer or desear. Yeah. Could even be preferir. I prefer that you do something like that. The I is our impersonal phrases, which we are going to get your examples today. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. I've got wishes or wants. I'm doing wish. Weirdo. E. Verbs of emotion. This is a hard one, guys. We're not going to work on this one today, but verbs of emotion can also be triggers for subjunctive, like me alegro de que, I am happy that. Me gusta que, I like that you do something. I like that they work so hard when they come every week. Something like that. Estoy triste de que, I am sad that, sí, estoy triste de que esté enfermo tu abuelito. I am sad that your grandpa is sick. The I, here comes our impersonal phrases. And a lot of people learn to use subjunctive with that first because it is an easy one to figure out and to recognize always. Verbs of emotion is a tough that's hard for English speakers to always recognize, but impersonal phrases are easy. R for recommendations. And you know what, I'll change this up a little bit. I'm going to say verbs of recommendation because there are many verbs of recommendation. Recomendar, obviamente. Sugerir. Preferir is usually thrown into that one. Anything that recommends or suggests. That's the R of weirdo. D are verbs of doubt. This is the one that we actually, I'll just list that as doubt in general. That's the one that we as English speakers we overthink it and make it harder than it is. But anyway, doubt. When we don't think something is going to happen, or when something is actually contrary to fact. And O is a single word. O is the word stands in for ojalá, ojalá, which may or may not be used with que. I tend to use with que. A lot of people do drop the que. Ojalá. Ojalá is simply a word that comes from Arabic long, long ago, and it means God willing. Okay. But in English terms of how we would express it in English, even though it literally means like God willing, we might say hopefully. It means that you wish for something to happen. That is the acronym weirdo that you keep hearing them talk about. Okay. And impersonal phrases today are the I of weirdo. Yes?
Gracias. Gracias.
And many, many different types of verbs will fit into these categories of weirdo. Okay, so for us, the first hurdle with subjunctive is learning how to form it. And we have a question we're going to go to right now because we had a great question that came up about forming one very, very odd verb. But anyway, what is actually harder than how to form subjunctive, much harder, is understanding the situations where it comes up. And the reason it is hard for us is that in English, there is no one single way that this concept is expressed or that these concepts are expressed. English sometimes uses a very weak kind of subjunctive, like the words may or might, or I guess could possibly. Yeah, okay. Those ideas kind of convey the same idea of subjunctive in English, but they're kind of weak. Sometimes English just uses an infinitive, and but English has many, many ways of saying these ideas, and they don't use the subjunctive that other languages use. French does have a subjunctive. I'm pretty sure Italian must have one. You know, a lot of languages have subjunctive or we do not. So this is a tough thing for English speakers to understand. Why do they even need this? So those are what we call triggers, meaning they are going to set up a situation to use subjunctive in the first place. Okay. But one thing you can say about subjunctive in general is that we have to have some kind of a trigger that comes from this weirdo collection of ideas. And you're generally going to have a trigger like what's from up above, and that word K is going to have to be there. And then we need a second different person who does the action. Okay, so those are kind of the requirements. We need one of these triggers, okay, like I want, or they prefer that the employees do blah, 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 right? The waiter recommends that we order blah, blah, blah. These are examples of when subjunctive will come in. Hopefully it will rain next week. Hopefully will be that ojalá. And ojalá is the other golden easy one. Impersonal phrases are easy to use. Ojalá is easy because ojalá doesn't get conjugated. It isn't a verb. It's just that one word, always that one word, and it never changes in its form. So it's always ojalá, and it's easy to remember. I doubt that any of the applicants meet our company's needs. I doubt that any applicants have the skills for this job. That would be another example. And you hear that when we say these ideas in English, there isn't really something that sounds like, you know, we don't call it subjunctive in English, really. Subjunctive does exist in English, but it's sort of mutated. I don't know. Not used much. There you go. Okay. And you know that the verb or the action in the subjunctive has to use that opposite vowel kind of formation. Yeah. But there are some things that are odd. And I'm going to say this because we had a question about this particular verb. Here's one of the odd ones. Dormir. You're going to hear dormir used in this. Okay, so let's take dormir and see if we can just say, I'm going to figure out how to use dormir in subjunctive. I start with our yo form, right? Duermo. The way we form subjunctive is to start with the yo verb first, and we get rid of this o in the duermo. And because dormir is an IR verb. We're going to use what sounds like the sounds. Entonces, so we're going to be A-okay with this until we get to a couple of things. Okay. Bien. Duerma, yo duerma. Okay. Mamá quiere, or es, we'll use the ones that we're using now. Es importante que yo duerma por lo menos 8 horas. It's important that I sleep at least 8 hours. Es importante que yo duerma. Okay. La forma de tú, fácil. Duermas. La forma de él a usted igual a yo. So yo uses the same form as él a usted. You notice that imperfecto does that too. So duerma is the same form we use for él a usted. Y entonces es importante que los niños duerman por lo menos 8 horas. It's important that the kids sleep at least 8 hours, duerman. So we're A-okay with dormir. So one thing we're going to point out, and this is kind of a footnote, but this is kind of a common verb, dormir is. And so we're going to take a quick look at it. Dormir, besides being a verb that we talk about a lot, because we talk about our sleep, dormir is an IR verb, but it is an IR verb that is a stem changer. And sadly, as you already know, IR verbs that are stem changers specifically do oddball things. And here is the oddball thing that it does for the nosotros form. First of all, that stem change will go away in nosotros. That part isn't so odd, but it becomes this. Whoa! ¿Qué pasó? What happened? Instead of duer, it becomes durmamos. IR verbs that are stem changers specifically do have an oddball thing that happens, even though we don't technically have a stem change. We do this odd thing just in nosotros. Okay. So this isn't going to happen in a lot of verbs, because a lot of verbs, and we're highlighting this because someone wants to use this today. So it just happens. If you had pedir, which is also, por ejemplo, a stem changing verb that is an IR stem changing verb, right? It would be pida, pidas, pida, pidan, and then it keeps it pidamos. There's always an odd thing in nosotros that happens with these stem changers that come from IR. Yeah. And many tenses in Spanish, the IR stem changers always do some funny, funky, weird thing somewhere. Not always in the nosotros form, but someplace else. Okay. Bien. Okay. Aquí tenemos una lista. Here we've got a list of possible things. Algunas frases impersonales. Es una lista parcial. It is a partial list. There is no really complete list that I can give you, but just keep in mind that when we use subjunctive, we have to keep away from a very small group of impersonals. We have to keep away from es verdad que, that can't use subjunctive because it talks about truth. We have to keep away from es cierto que. It's, again, sure that, meaning it's true. Yeah, because cierto also means true. It talks about truth. And we have to keep away from something like es obvio que. It's obvious that, because obvious states a truth. So as long as you stay away from those three, you're pretty much good to go. Bien? See? Okay. Algunos ejemplos. Do you have some examples you worked up que quieren compartir con nosotros? Bueno, Kathleen.
Okay. Un momento. Es fantástico que la Universidad de Michigan esté en los playoffs nacionales de fútbol universitario.
Que esté en los torneos, it's in the tournament, sí. Sí, los partidos, sí, es fantástico, it's great, yeah.
Sí, sí.
Sí, bien. Vale.
Todos en acuerdo. Yes, sí.
Ok, bueno, sí. Quizás los de Ohio no están de acuerdo, pero sí, sí, las personas que vivían en Ohio, para ellos quizás no, pero ok. Bueno, Kathleen, ¿qué más? What else? ¿Tienes otro ejemplo?
Oh, sí, sí. These might get a little repetitive, but okay. Es recomendable que vaya a jugar a la Universidad de Michigan en los playoffs nacionales de fútbol universitario.
Ok, bien. ¿Hay otro o no?
Uno más. Es ridículo que la Universidad de Florida State no esté en los playoffs nacionales de fútbol universitario.
Bueno, dale. Ok.
I
I
learned
will one
something
check
about
mine,
you
sorry.
just now, Kathleen.
Buenos ejemplos, ¿sí? Ejemplos del mundo de deporte, del mundo del deporte. Bien, fantástico. Ok, bueno, Terry, sí.
Sí, tiene una pregunta para
Sí, dime.
Es esencial que beba o beber mucho agua cuando en el desierto.
Okay.
So if you're just saying generally, you need to drink water when you're in the desert, not you.
Muy importante. Sí. Buena pregunta, buena pregunta. Ok. Depende de tu manera de expresar. It depends on your way of expressing it. Did you use esencial?
Sí, esencial.
Es esencial beber agua, sí, en el desierto. We're just going to, condense that down. ¿Sí? Es esencial beber agua en el desierto. If you're talking about just any old Tom, Dick, and Harry, that's fine. Okay. Pero, es esencial que let's even make it very general, que la gente beba mucha agua en el desierto. Even if I just go as to a very, like this very people word, we're still injecting a person. Yeah. Even though that's a general word for person. Sí. Es esencial que la gente beba mucha agua en el desierto. The minute I inject a person, I need this word que, and then I will often name the person. But again, because in Spanish, sometimes we don't name the person if it's known from context. Yeah. You may not always hear a person there, but you need to conjugate that verb. Es esencial que todos los chicos beban mucha agua en el desierto. Bien. So that verb will change according to who it is that you plug in to that little formula, which is correct. They're both correct. It's just that this one doesn't really name anybody. It talks about everybody in general, and it's understood you mean just anybody at all.
Marilyn?
Sí.
Then if you did es esencial que bebas with tu, not spoken, so it would be conjugated for bebas.
Sí,
Es
sí.
esencial que bebas.
Es esencial, you know, you've got a visitor that came in from a place where they don't experience this. Es esencial que bebas agua
Sí.
aquí.
So you don't have to name anyone. It depends on your intent. You don't have to name someone if it's the you unspoken.
If it is the you that is tú, we don't include that tú very often.
Okay.
We and really in all of the tenses in Spanish, it is really more natural, more usual to not even say the word tú. And the reason is the verb already tells you that.
Sí.
Yeah. Because the form of the verb can only be for tú, there's no reason to say the word tú. So, es esencial que bebas agua aquí. Okay, Mariana, ¿tienes pregunta?
Pregunta along with that. I came up with one where I did use te. It's es posible que no te gusta la película. But because of gusta, because it's either gusta or gustan.
Okay. Otra vez, one more time. Repite, por favor.
Es posible que no te guste la película.
Sí. You go to Barbie and you're really not sure the people you're taking to Barbie are going to think it's dumb or it's clever or, you know, lo que sea, whatever, right? So, es posible que no te guste, but it will not be gustes. It'll, that you won't like, the movie won't be pleasing
to
you. Que no te guste. Yeah. Muy normal. Sí, es posible que no te guste la película. Maybe you're not going to like the movie. It's possible that you may not like it. Sí. ¿Entiendes? Sí. But it won't be gustes, right? Because we conjugate gustar for película. But it will be guste.
Well,
La forma.
The congregation for gustar is only gusta and gustan and gustan.
Yeah, the only thing you're going to hear as a subjunctive for gustar is either guste or gusten.
Okay.
Yeah, sí, así es. That's kind of a tricky one too. Yeah, we always come up with some tricky ones there. Okay, vale. Otra idea. Any other idea? Any other examples you've got from what you worked up? Sí, Diana.
Es bueno que Santa Claus tenga un equipo de reinos muy rápido.
Bien, sí. Excelente. He's got a team of very, very spry reindeer. Sí. Okay, vale. Perfecto. Sí, Trish, I saw your hand up earlier, and then we'll get to Terry.
Es I can't say.
Preferible. Preferible.
Yes.
Es una larga palabra. It's a long word.
Que mi esposo vuele en primera clase cuando viaja.
Sí. Cuando viaje, when he may be traveling. See? Cuando viaje, even that viaje will change. Es posible, ¿sí?
But is it viaje? Because when I looked it up, I thought it was viaja.
Yeah. Pues, okay. If you're talking, okay, it could go both ways. If you're talking about cuando viaja, when he travels, meaning always his habit, then it's viaja. Okay. If you're using cuando, but you're saying, well, whenever it is that he may be flying, meaning you don't know when, then it will be viaje. Y depende. It depends on the nuance there. Cuando is an odd word. Cuando does not appear in that weirdo list. And cuando is a tricky one because when cuando talks about a habit, what you always do all the time, then we will not use subjunctive.
Okay.
But when cuando talks about something that might occur, but I really don't know when, then it will use subjunctive. Okay.
Una pregunta.
Sí, dime.
I was trying to look this up to say it's incredible what Simone Biles does in gymnastics. And this is what it came up with. Es increíble lo que hace Simone Biles en gimnasia.
Sí.
When I looked it up, and that confused me.
Okay. And why did it just use hace and not haga, right?
Right.
Okay. Let me put that on the screen so para que puedan entender. Para que puedan entender, so that you can understand that. That's kind of a special. You know, it's surely I say, well, we've got easy ways of learning this. There's some oddball example that comes up, right? Es increíble. Lo que hace Simone Biles, ¿sí? Simone Biles. ¿Cómo se escribe Biles?
Just B-I-L-E-S, I think. I think it's just
B-I-L-E-S.
Sí. Okay.
In gymnastics.
Sí, en el gimnasio, por ejemplo. En el gimnasio, ¿sí?
Sí.
Okay, vale.
Is that gymnastics? That's gymnastics versus gymnasium?
Sí. Sí.
Okay.
Es gimnasta, she's a gymnast, gimnasio, perdón, N. Gimnasio. Okay. Lo escribo así para simplificar. I just write it this way to simplify it a little bit. Okay. Why does that not use subjunctive? Because this little word here is something special. It is not just a que by itself. It is a lo que. And lo que means what. What when we're outside of the context of a question. What he says is important. What he does is phenomenal. What I like, I just don't see it. Yeah. And this lo que is a what. What she does is incredible. That doesn't need subjunctive. It's talking about, I guess I could say a fact, but that lo que is really kind of a driver here. Okay, let's tweak it around a little bit and see when we can. Oh, perdón, Nora.
If you said it's incredible that she can flip or whatever, then it's going to be different.
Eso sí. Okay, so we're going to flip this a little bit to see when we would use subjunctive. No word lo. Es increíble que Simón haga, no sé, sí, haga,
muchos
a high score.
Sí, no sé cómo no estoy acostumbrada a usar vocabulario de las gimnastas. Voy a buscar algo aquí. We'll look up something here because it'll surely be something that just doesn't come to mind here because it's not something I generally talk about a lot. So it's actually, sí. Que Simón voltee. That comes from voltear. Voltear means to flip. Yeah, to do a flip physically. Yeah. Well, actually, sometimes even if you flip a pancake, yeah. Voltear, see? So we keep this E from volte, que voltee así. That it's incredible that she flips around like that. And that's how we change it to use it into a subjunctive. Eso sí, entiendes, understand? And that is, yeah. And if you plugged it into something to like turn it into an example for yourself, it may just say it's incredible what she does. And that is talking about really more fact. It's not incredible that she does. It's the structure that really dictates one or the other. Okay. Buena pregunta, Trish. Muy buena pregunta. Sí, algo más.
Okay. Can I do one more?
Sí, 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 claro.
Okay. I thought this would be funny. Es dudoso, is that correct?
Es
Que
dudoso, sí.
que hable español con fluidez para el próximo mes.
Ah, sí. Es dudoso que hable
Or
español
próximo,
con
or próximo.
fluidez. Sí, it's doubtful that you'll speak fluently. Sí, en un mes, in a month. No, increíble.
Or dos,
Es
or
dudoso.
tres.
En tres, sí, casi increíble. Sí. Buen ejemplo. Muy bien. Okay. Algo más, Trish. You have any others, Trish?
Una más.
Okay.
Es necesario que mi perro camine todos los días.
Okay, bien. Bueno, es necesario, es increíble, todo eso. Bien, bien, bien. Excelente. Terry, tienes unos ejemplos, ¿verdad?
Sí. Es raro que no tengamos una día menos 100, and I don't know how to say degrees, 100 degrees.
Grados.
Grados en un año.
Sí, ok, vale.
Tengamos, that we will have.
Tengamos. Perfecto. Sí. Ah, bien. Ok, vale. Otros ejemplos, other examples that you have. Sí, bueno, Mariana.
I have one that was kind of like Trisha's earlier with the cuando. It's es probable que nieve en Chicago cuando el visitemos.
Ok, es probable que nieve.
Nieve.
Nieve, sí, nieve. Okay, vale. Yeah. Okay. We'll put this on screen because that's hard to kind of. I see some of you thinking, and we think like that. I do. I think like that too. Okay. Es probable. Sí, Mariana.
Sí, yes. Sí.
Es probable que nieve en Chicago, and then you name the day. Or sí. Esta semana.
Cuando la visitemos.
Cuando, sí, cuando la visitemos. Bien. Es probable que nieve en Chicago. Nieve is a tricky word. Nieve is actually also the noun form to talk about the thing that is snow. Snow as a noun. Sí, la nieve es muy bella. The snow is very beautiful. Okay, that kind of snow. Pero nevar, el verbo nevar es to snow. And so we just, and you only get the one conjugation because I don't snow and we don't snow. It snows. So the only thing we use is nieve. Okay.
So question there.
Sí, sí.
So it came up as, so nevar is N-E-V-A-R, right? And so when I looked it up, it came up as N-E-V-E. Instead of with the no vowel change.
Oh, no, you need a vowel. You need that.
So it's
wrong.
Okay.
You definitely need that. Yeah.
Okay.
See. Okay. And the other precipitation word that we use a lot and winds up coming up a lot in subjunctive in chit chat is llover, right? And that is a UE stem changer. So llueve is the normal one, right? But for subjunctive, it'll be llueva.
Okay. Thank you.
Llueva. Y hay una canción muy famosa que dice, ojalá que llueva café. Llueva is a very common thing to hear in subjunctive because often we don't know for sure if it is going to rain or not. Así es. Buenos ejemplos. Okay. A ver, but those precipitation things, they only go in the one form, right? You're never going to conjugate it for nosotros. Because we just do.
Right.
Así es. Bueno, más ejemplos, more examples that you want to share. Sí, Marcos.
Okay, es importante que haga mis ejercicios de rodilla.
Eso sí, fantástico.
And can I do a couple more?
Sí, sí, claro.
Es probable que salgamos a cenar el día de cumpleaños de mi esposa.
Perfecto, sí, muy bien.
And then I had one more, or I have one more, that when Kathleen started going into the college football playoff, I had to throw this one together real quickly. The background is I subscribe to the Fiesta Bowl ticket. So every year. Es ridículo que el Universidad Liberty vaya a jugar en el Fiesta Bowl.
Vaya a jugar is, yeah, sí, vaya a jugar, sí. And if you chose to just use jugar instead of vaya a jugar, which is fine too, que juegue, that they play. Así, bien, perfecto. Excelente, me gusta mucho. Bien. Bueno, ok. Hay otro ejemplo que... sí, Pat, ¿tienes algo?
Es necesario que te cuides tu salud.
Sí, que es necesario que te cuidas. It's necessary that you take care of yourself. Sí. Oh, te cuides, perdón, que te cuides, sí.
And then I had, and I don't know if I've conjugated the verbs correctly. Es bueno que la gente conocemos bien nos sorprenda a veces.
Otra, yeah, give me that one again.
What I was trying to say was, it's good that people we know well sometimes surprise us. So I had, es bueno que la gente conocemos bien, sorprenda a veces. Surprises.
Sí. Es bueno,
I'm
okay.
not sure how the two verbs.
Sí, entiendo. Es un poquito difícil. Ok. Te lo voy a mostrar. Los conocidos indica the known ones, the people we know. That's one way of saying people we know, los conocidos. Bien. Another way maybe of saying that, es bueno que los que conocemos bien, ¿sí? Nos sorprende, sorprendan, surprise us, they surprise us.
Yes.
Sí, ok. Que los que conocemos bien nos sorprenden, sorprendan, perdón, que nos sorprendan. It's good that the people we know well sometimes surprise us, ¿sí? Bien. Ok. ¿Algo más, Pat?
No, nada más.
No. Ok. ¿Alguien tiene otro ejemplo? Bueno, Nora, and then we'll go to Diana.
Es normal que estés enojado cuando olvidé mis llaves.
Ok.
And
Bien.
one more, let's see. Es posible que ella vaya a Safeway más tarde.
Sí, excelente. Sí. Eso es, that's it for you, sí.
I got more, but that's okay. Two's enough.
Sí, no. Uno más, one more.
Okay. Es una lástima que tengas sortir ahora mismo.
Ok. Es una lástima que tengas. Sí. Bien. Bien. Ok. Buenos ejemplos. Diana.
Una pregunta on the construction of this. Es terrible que haya una guerra en el Medio Oriente. Do you use
Ah,
this? Es terrible que haya.
que haya. Sí. And this topic almost always comes up. Casi siempre. Another verb, one more verb that is super easy to use. Uy, ay, tan chiquitito. Another verb that is very easy to use in subjunctive because it only gets that one form is that verb haya, even though it is an irregular. Es terrible que haya guerra en el Medio Oriente, ¿sí? It's terrible that there's a war in the Middle East. Es terrible que haya. Haya es un verbo muy fácil de usar. This is a really easy verb to use because it's when it means there are or there is, we only use that one form. There are different conjugations of this verb haya when we use it as a compound tense. Like it's possible that I have found your lost wallet. Have found, then haya does different things depending on who does that action. But haya, when it expresses there is or there are, and we might think of this verb as in English as there might be, or yeah. Sometimes in English, we do use the idea of there may be or there might be, and that's about the closest we get to subjunctive. But haya is always haya, and it won't go into a plural form. Sí, eso. Buena pregunta. Okay, hay algo más. Hay algo más aquí. Anything else here? Any other example? Any other question? Okay, and don't worry too much about those IR stem changing verbs that I showed you in the example. You know, somebody wanted to have, we had a question, and actually it's a very good question because sadly, those exceptions, those oddball examples, there's always one that trips us up, and there's always one that's common. Dormir we use a lot.
Just one?
Well, pues no, yeah, there are a few. You know, pedir, morir, dormir, repetir, IR verbs that are stem, servir, ¿sí? Those are all common stem changing verbs, and you know, but when you look at the totality of all the verbs there are to know in Spanish, the IR stem changers are a small category, but yeah, they do come up a lot. So, así es. So it is. Bien. Okay. Bueno. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Any question about these impersonals? Any odd, like, hangnail kind of idea or question or concept that's still hanging out there for you or not? See, Kathleen.
So in a couple of these instances where we've had two verbs,
a couple,
then both verbs go into the subjunctive.
Sí, por lo general.
You have a single trigger, but you have two verbs in subjunctives.
Yeah, that may happen. It can happen. And the only phrase I will say to be a little bit careful with is that word cuando. And that's kind of an advanced one. I don't want to go there too much. Just be aware of, in using the word cuando, when we use cuando to express something that always gets done every day, day in, day out, every week, week in, week out, that it's a part of a routine that for sure happens all the time. We don't need subjunctive with that. Cuando is an odd word, and it doesn't appear in that weirdo mnemonic device. because cuando doesn't always use subjunctive, right? Cuando will use subjunctive when it talks about something that is probably going to happen in the future, but it hasn't yet. Un ejemplo.
The example that I gave it when it might snow in Chicago, and then when we visit, it was cuando la visitemos.
Yeah, you know, it really depends. If you're talking about, you know, you always go to Chicago and you always go and it always happens. That's forming a habit. But por ejemplo, cómprame. Ok, un ejemplo con cuando que sí, donde sí usamos el subjuntivo. Compra un galón de leche. Buy a gallon of milk. Compra un galón de leche cuando vayas al supermercado, when you go to the store. You haven't gone to the store yet. I'm not talking about every time when you go to the store. I'm talking about the next time it happens. And I don't know exactly when that is going to happen. Compra un galón de leche cuando vayas al super. Cuando vayas al super, when you go to the store, meaning it's going to happen kind of soon, but I don't really know when, and you haven't gone yet. Yeah.
Could you say es importante que compre leche cuando vaya al supermercado?
Sí, es muy sí, eso. Sí. Excelente.
Okay.
Yeah. So cuando can be a tricky thing, and it will use one tense when it expresses a habit or a pattern that always happens, like routine, and it will use subjunctive, the different when something that is kind of out there in the future, but you know, I don't know exactly when it's going to happen. It hasn't really happened yet. It hasn't really happened yet is why the subjunctive often comes in. Bien. Perfecto. Okay. A ver.
Can I back us up just for a minute?
Sí, claro.
So, Kathleen, what you said a minute ago it kind of like made me wonder. Looking at the examples that I had, and I was trying to kind of compare the two thoughts. If I heard you right, I think you said that we would normally, if there's two verbs involved, that both would go into subjunctive. And then I was trying to sort of like see, well, did I do that? And so like the example I used was about going out to eat. I said, es probable que salgamos, which is
okay, sí.
A cenar, which is just the infinitive.
Sí.
Marilyn, maybe you can kind of clarify. There must be two different things on the table right now.
Quizás, maybe. Let me think about that a little bit. You know, you could have a scenario where you've got two different verbs after an impersonal phrase, and they'll both go into subjunctive. I wouldn't overthink that too much right now. Well, no, because
my example was it's normal for you to be angry when I forget my keys. I did not make the forget be subjunctive, but are you saying I should have?
No, not necessarily. Okay. Okay, a ver. And the reason it will sound like I'm waffling, but I'm trying not to, is this. When you're learning a concept like subjunctive and you're learning to actually use it as opposed to recognize it when you're hearing it, you know, the first task you have is really recognizing it when you hear it. And it is harder for us to actually use subjunctive because there is so little of it in English that we have to compare it to. That's why it's a tough one. Okay, a ver. For your intents and purposes, it's good to keep it as simple as possible and break things down into simpler forms when you're learning to use something difficult. Because the mental gymnastics we go through in speaking are kind of formidable. Yeah. And so we want a good thing, a good rule of thumb when you're learning something big is to break it down into simpler components, simpler structures for speaking so that you don't have to do so many mental gymnastics and it can flow a little bit easier. Okay, un ejemplo aquí. Es frustrante olvidar olvidar las llaves. Here's a really flat out simple thing to say. Es frustrante olvidar las llaves. It's frustrating to lose your keys or to forget your keys, not lose, forget. It's frustrating to forget your keys. Es frustrante es frustrante que mi hija se olvide las llaves. Now I gotta go pick her up. Bien, sí, es frustrante que mi hija se olvide las llaves. It's frustrating that my daughter has done this. Es frustrante que I've put in a person, mi hija. See, I could put yo in there. Que yo me olvide, sí, que yo, sí. Even better, really, is this, because se le olviden las llaves is even better. Let's use perder, because that one there, olvidar, olvidarse is to forget, but to forget is kind of an accidental thing. So that is usually expressed as que se le olviden, that they went and forgot themselves on here. Let's use perder. Perder, ¿sí? Es frustrante que yo pierde las llaves, ¿sí? Es frustrante que yo pierde, es frustrante que mi pareja pierde algo, ¿sí? Sí. Es frustrante que los chicos es frustrante que los chicos pierdan el dinero. Es frustrante que los chicos pierdan el dinero. It's frustrating that the kids forget their money. See? Así. Try not to, okay, I could add a second verb, but now I'm kind of complicating things and I'm making it harder for me to get this idea out. But okay, es frustrante que los chicos pierdan el dinero y me llamen. It's frustrating that the kids are losing their money and they're calling me. Okay, I can use two verbs. but you know, you're kind of like making it more of a mental gymnastics, a harder thing. It's good because we're learning this as a new concept to kind of keep it simpler and just keep your sentences a little bit shorter until you get a little bit more comfortable with the mental gymnastics of doing that. If that makes sense, ¿sí? ¿Tiene sentido? That makes sense? ¿Sí?
Sí.
Vale. We did not get to, I'm sure you've got some questions about our Rambo-like guy. That was just, it was silly funny. It was quite cute, actually. But if you noticed, I hope you had time, you know, I had sent you the list of terms. There were quite a lot of times where he pulled in some impersonal phrases there. There were a lot, but there were also a lot where there weren't the triggers. The impersonal phrase triggers weren't there. Other triggers were there. Other triggers. So I think it will be worthwhile for us next week next week that we'll maybe take a look at why those happen. And the objective here is not going to be so that you can seamlessly use it when you speak, because that probably isn't going to happen, because there are many, many cues that will bring in subjunctive. But our objective with looking at this will be so that you can recognize when people speak to you, so that you can recognize why they're using subjunctive, what it means, the nuances that they are conveying by using that when they speak to you. Because in a typical conversation or in a speech or in a video, and that video was not made as a let's learn how to plug in impersonal phrases. It was not. It happened to use a lot of that, but you know, subjunctive wound up taking up maybe 30% of the verbs he used throughout the video. About 30%, maybe even 40. It was a lot. And this is quite typical. So what we want you to be able to do is to recognize when you hear it, that they're using it. And it might be good enough to just say, ooh, they're using it. But, you know, for us to think about why is helpful, because it will come up again and again. A lot of these were very typical kinds of triggers. So we'll maybe take a look at that, and I'll give you a new thing, a new video for just listening pleasure. Yeah. That will not be any kind of a grammar driven kind of thing. And we're going to take a look at por and para next week for our last session, because por and para always comes up, and this is not going to be the first time you've heard of por and para. So it's not like we need to go through all of them, but we'll go through a lot of examples of por and para, because I didn't want to leave that off the plate, because a lot of people from both my morning and evening group asked for that. So we'll come back. We'll analyze our las aventuras de Rambo, our Rambo adventures, and we'll take a look at you know, figuring out why he said what he said in those different situations, and why he plugged in some subjunctive. Okay, bien, todo bien, all good.
Sí. Bien, gracias.
Magnifico. Magnifico. I'll probably ask that you do maybe a few more examples for next week with these impersonals, and maybe one with an ojalá, because ojalá is super easy. The only word you need to know is ojalá, and you need no other words, literally no other words, to talk about something hopefully happening. Okay. And it talks about the future. Y eso es todo. Y nos vemos mañana. We'll see you tomorrow if you're able to make it. Y todo eso. Okay? Bien.
Gracias.
Perfecto. Nos vemos, nos vemos. Sí, cuídense mucho. Take care.